What's up, everybody? Let's talk Jets radio. Hope you guys are all doing well. Shout out to everybody last night that joined the show, filled in for me. I'm doing fine. Just had a little cold. Still don't really sound all that great, but definitely gonna be doing the live stream tonight for the UFC McGregor fight. Was not the shrimp. I don't have COVID. I saw the comments. I'm good. But news of the day: Deshaun Watson apparently has the Jets at the top of his list as far as trade destinations, and for me, this completely changes everything. The big reason I wasn't getting hyped about it in the past, at least the past few weeks, was I didn't think there was any chance that the New York Jets would be viewed as a preferred destination over the Dolphins, over the Niners, over several other places. Apparently, the hiring of Coach Saleh has changed a lot of things, which is great. It's awesome to hear the Jets being talked about as a team or a destination where prominent players, would like to go. But there's still several layers to this. And, the first I'll start with is, the salary cap, which should be a complete non-discussion. I know the numbers at first, some people are talking about, didn't look too great, but when you factor in that the Texans have to take on his signing bonus, I'm pretty sure his cap hit this coming year is only $11 million, and then the next few years it's less than the supposed $42 million number that people are talking about. So salary cap's not an issue. The Jets have money. Even if they get him this year, they're still going to have plenty of money to spend as far as free agents go. They can put a team around him without much of an issue. So salary cap's a non-discussion unless your plan was to draft a rookie quarterback, which would be a complete unknown, and build a team around him. The idea of Sam Darnold, which again, that's my boy, still you'd be paying him $25 million next year. It's a no-brainer trying to compare that with Deshaun Watson in the $30 million range. Now, obviously, there's still compensation that has to be given. And this is where I would love to see Deshaun Watson step up if these reports are true and help facilitate this trade. And the one situation that I kind of kept thinking back to was almost a decade ago. I think it was 2011 with Carmelo Anthony. And Melo made it known he wanted to be a Knick. He played his college basketball in Syracuse, so the Knicks were a preferred destination. But the problem was he was still willing to go to a number of other teams. The Nets were in talks. I think the Lakers, and there were a few other teams that were interested in making a move. And he didn't really have an issue going to any of those other teams. And so what happened was, you kind of had this bidding war. A bunch of teams were interested, and the Knicks ended up giving up, Gallinari, Wilson Chandler, plenty of draft picks. And so, yes, they turned it around quick. They were a playoff team right away. Year and a half, they were pretty solid, but then they didn't have any ability to keep a winner around Melo. They didn't have any resources, especially with Amari Stoudemire getting hurt and Chauncey Billups. He was getting old, making a lot of money. They didn't have a way of sustaining a winner around Carmelo Anthony. Now, this situation obviously is very different. You're talking about a quarterback who's legitimately a top five guy in the prime of his career. But where I think it has some similarities, or I'm hoping it'll have some differences, is that I would love to see Deshaun Watson, if these reports are true, make the Jets his top destination with no number two, no number three, no number four, no bidding war, none of that. Because here's what happens. First off, he hates the Texans. So the idea that he'd want to create a bidding war so that the Texans can get, 3, 4 first round picks and more, why would he want to do that? That doesn't make any sense. The other part of it is that going to the team now that acquires you, why would you want that team to have, 3 less first round picks, 4 less first round picks, whatever it is? So I want Deshaun Watson to whatever team it is, the Jets, Dolphins, whoever, he should have that team number one, and there should be no number two. Figure out where you want to go. And if it's the Jets, I will be all in. Go get him, Joe Douglas. But Watson, without question, especially with the no trade clause, he has the ability to facilitate this trade and make it easier on the team that's acquiring him, where they don't have to give up those 4 first round picks. Because here's the thing, and that I keep going to. Yes, you can build a very good team around Deshaun Watson, but is it going to be better than what he's had in Houston as far as DeAndre Hopkins, a legitimate top 5 wideout, J.J. Watt, defensive player of the year? Can you put those pieces around Deshaun Watson? And even then, they didn't win a Super Bowl. They were 4-12 last year. I know they didn't have Hopkins last year, but they still had Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks. They had weapons. He led the league in passing. They were still 4-12. So you still need to have a legitimate team. Okay. So I'm looking at, what we've been talking about, 3 or 4 first round picks, including the number 2 overall pick, which in theory, if you trade that down, is without question at least 3 or 4 premium assets as far as draft picks. So not that every one of them is going to hit, but you're talking about, 6, 7, 8 premium draft picks that you'd be trading to have Deshaun Watson, which could be 4 or 5 premium players. So I would love to see Deshaun Watson help facilitate this trade in the sense of, hey, I want to be a Jet. That's the only place I'm going to go. Figure it out. Give the Jets leverage so that they aren't mortgaging their future. And yes, I get it. They'd have plenty of picks still to try to build around him. They'd still have some cap space to build around him, but we have so many holes. So can you build a team that's better than what he had in Houston? Or more importantly, are you building a team that's better than what's already in place in Buffalo, or better than what the Chiefs have already put in place, what the Browns are building, what the Ravens are building? There are a lot of good teams right now in the AFC. So the idea that we just get Deshaun Watson and, we sign a couple guys and, we depend on Joe Douglas with the mid-round picks, I think we're asking a lot. And for the record, Joe Douglas did a phenomenal job with this hire. That's given me a lot of confidence in him going forward. The fact that he knew Saleh for all of like 10 minutes and felt comfortable enough to make the hire, didn't revert back to guys like Peterson and, Wink Martindale and guys that he was comfortable with. He trusted the process, hired who he felt was the best guy, who had the best vision, who could bring the best staff, who players would want to play for. So that gave me a lot of confidence in Joe Douglas. It really did. But as far as his draft record, as far as finding, under the radar free agents, he still has some work to do to prove himself there. So I want to give him as many resources as possible. And I think Deshaun Watson ultimately should want to do the same. So if he truly wants to be a New York Jet, if the New York Jets are truly his number one spot, take the Dolphins out of your number two and say, I only want to go to New York. Help the New York Jets, help Joe Douglas facilitate this trade, and then I will be completely all in. And I hate right now that I'm getting my hopes up because I didn't want to do this. I'm not the type of guy that's going to waffle. I have plenty of bad takes that are out there, but I usually don't waffle. Once I, jump ship on a take, I'm usually there for good. So as I'm starting to kind of jump on board the Watson train, I'm kind of pissed at myself because I don't want this to go the way I think it's going to go, which is where the Jets still probably don't get him. As a Jet fan for 32 years, 33 years, actually, you always have it in the back of your mind that they're going to find a way to screw it up or, not get it done. So yes, I'm starting to get my hopes up. I'm starting to, see all the tweets, all the Instagram posts and the likes. He's in New York. He's liking this. He's liking that. Allen Robinson liking all this Jet stuff. His agents liking all the Jet stuff. There are starting to be legitimate signs that he wants to be a Jet and that this could happen and that it can be done. So if that's the case, Deshaun Watson needs to help make it happen. And if he comes out, he makes a statement, I will only play for the New York Jets. That is the only place I will accept a trade to. Consider me all in. Sam Darnold, I am sorry. I love you. I think you're going to have a good career, but this is not something that the Jets could pass up. If you have a chance to get him, especially if it's not at the expense of 4 first-round picks or something crazy like that, it's a no-brainer. You have to do it. If you have a top 5 franchise quarterback for the next 10 years, you're in position to win every single year. Yes, there are some concerns. Watson's had 2 ACL surgeries. I know a caller brought that up on Tuesday. Again, he led the league in passing last year. They were still in last place. So there would still be a lot of work to be done. But when you have the franchise quarterback, you have a chance every year. You have an opportunity still with your cap space and all the other picks to build something special around him. So that's my hope. We'll see what happens over these next few weeks. One thing I would really love actually is if they could find a way to get through the draft coming up and then still make a trade after the draft, because then you could still use that number 2 overall pick, trade it for, future draft picks and still have all that ammo to pull off a deal. So I'd love to be able to use that number 2 pick, stockpile more assets, and then deal from that and get Deshaun Watson instead of giving the Texans number 2 overall plus another, 3 or 4 first round picks. So we'll see what happens, but we'll be live tonight talking UFC, talking Watson. So talk to you guys then.